They must have done so much work to give you this variety. I was doing things which I just can't do in any other game.
Hi there everybody, welcome to Gaming Bible, talking about Watch Dogs Legion with me, James, and the lovely Julian Benson. Say hi, Julian.
Hello.
Okay, Jules, so you have been able to go and play Watch Dogs Legion again. This is your second time in 2 years.
Yeah, I was realising that at the beginning of the demo. Last time I played was at Gamescom, where we spoke about what I've been up to then, and, I euthanized the guy.
But you played more of it now, so
Yes.
what we played, because I played it too a year ago, and what we played was, I thought, quite incredible. The ability to take control of any NPC you wanted, get around London, driving, hacking cars, stealing armoured vehicles, whatever you wanted. A year on, you play some more. How does it feel?
Well, so actually, yeah, so what we played last year was a sort of brief 20, 30-minute demo. This time I got a proper, 3.5 hours of the game. It was very much like, we'll give you an opening mission that you're going to play and everyone else who's playing is, but as soon as you get into the game from there, you're free to do whatever you want. And it was really good. It was one of those things where, because it's a game that sells itself in a sandbox, I wanted to push to the edges of what I could do. So, for instance, I drove straight to Brixton, where I used to live, to be like, okay, how close is this to reality? Like, what have they changed? What have they kept in there? But then there was also things where it's like, well, they say, you can recruit anyone in the city. So I started going around scanning people, seeing who I could recruit. I managed to find a guy who'd been hacking the NHS. Not obviously a great thing.
What was next for you then, after going and seeing your old flat?
Drove all the way to Brixton, and so I started off at Tower Bridge and was able to drive the whole way there. And it was that sort of thing of, I know London pretty well. I've lived here for on and off for the last 10 years. And being able to essentially use my road sense to just direct myself there was really quite cool. It felt like sort of that thing of when you play games like The Getaway and GTA London, where it's just like, we don't actually see this city in gaming as much as you'd hope, considering it is one of the major capitals in the world. And so it was really nice to go to Brixton and basically just I could actually visit my old flat, in the sense of I flew a drone up to my window of my flat because it looked out onto the street. Granted, I didn't see a digital version of me, but I could imagine he was inside.
What, you don't live there anymore? Of course
No.
you wouldn't see you. This is set in the future, Jules. You moved away from it.
That is true, yeah. So I don't know why I considered I would see myself. That was madness.
Didn't mean to call you out on the internet, but you were kind of asking for it.
That's fair. You showed me. So I saw my old flat, and then I was able to sort of go to the end of the road where the ritzy cinema would normally be, but that had been replaced by a bar. There's this big Bovril sign, which is quite famous in Brixton. That's been replaced by broth. So clearly they've not managed to get the licenses to everything. But also what they did have was things like they've got the David Bowie mural, which is this sort of, Brixton's famous for it because David Bowie lived there at the time, and sort of when he died back in 2016, there were big street demonstrations. That makes it sound like a protest. It wasn't. It was a party.
It was like a vigil.
Yeah, there we go. That's a much better word than demonstration. But so it was really cool to be able to walk around the street, and they've really got the feel of that part of London, and each of London's districts is distinct in the same way that it is in reality. When I went to Southwark, there was much more in the way of sort of sleek buildings. I mean, this is the home of the Shard. This is sort of where you're getting businesses and universities. And so it was cool to be able to be going through London from place to place and it both be recognisable and also see how well it lends itself to being an open world location anyway. So there are parts of London which feel like they've been condensed. Actually, surprisingly, King's Cross Station, for instance, doesn't feel like it's as large as it should be. And also you can't go inside it. So it's interesting what you can go inside and what you can't go inside. St Pancras does have a slight part of it you can step inside of, but King's Cross you can't. I really wanted to go and see if they had the platform 9 3/4 statue, for instance.
That would be quite fun.
Yeah, and so it might be that it's the sort of thing where, as is often the case with these games, from when you're visiting in the open world, you can't go inside it, but when you're playing it in a mission, then it opens up and you get the full scale inside recreated.
Right,
so
okay.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with that.
With regards to the gameplay then, that's the bit that we're all interested in.
Even though I've played the game before, I've been following all the previews and that's the thing, I was really surprised by the depth of it. Every single NPC comes up with, a different name, they look different, that sort of thing. But they also have things like a little background. You can find out what they're up to, where they're headed to next, what their daily schedule is. There's also things where it's there's this really wide variety of different backgrounds that each character can have, and then what that means for their skill set. There was one person who I scanned who was, I think he was a fashion designer, and because they were a famous fashion designer, that meant that they would be more easily recognized. So it was like essentially a negative ability about having this person as part of my gang.
Okay, cool.
Because if I took that person into an environment where they weren't supposed to and they were security guards, they will be identified and tracked faster. Whereas if I was to take a member of Albion, which is the security service which has taken over London, they are able to walk into secure areas unless I do something which is sort of outwardly, this guy's committing a crime, then they'll just leave me completely unmolested. The characters you pick aren't just sort of, okay, here's some abilities, they look different from one another. Like in the sense of, there's different skill sets open to them based on who they are. So like, there are the people who are hackers who will have higher versions of hacking abilities than non-hacker characters, but similarly other characters might have like better combat abilities or driving abilities. Yeah. And so it means that you want to have that wide spread of gang, but it also means that when you're in conversations and cutscenes, your character has different lines and voice dialogue based on who you're playing as. So they must have done so much work to give you this variety of like sort of play. So for instance, like there was one mission I went into where I was playing as a person in my roster who was a spy, which meant that they had access to a car which could fire rockets, which is over the top and silly and fun, and it's basically being James Bond. And I think that sort of speaks to sort of there being a level of silliness in Watch Dogs, which is really nice to see they're embracing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you've got to have fun with a game like this.
Yeah. But it meant that, for instance, when I was accepting a mission, my character was speaking in a like RP, received pronunciation accent. She had particular lines of dialogue which really fitted her. But if I was to do another mission, like for instance, at one point I play as a construction worker, again, different voice, different lines of dialogue. You also have things where it's like, depending on who you're playing as in the open world, you have different flavour text being said by the characters around you. Like, as you'll see again in the footage, where I might have got a little bit mad with power when I got the policeman. I was having people calling me a pig. I was having loads and loads of aggressive language said at me, and I just started arresting everyone because the special ability of the police is you can just arrest people without charge.
Wow, I mean, that's scarily on the nose, isn't it?
Yeah, I definitely sense the tone of the time.
How excited are you to play it again? When this game comes out, do you see yourself day one picking it up?
Yeah. So basically, like, I've been playing quite a few open world games this year, but like, for instance, they're obviously a genre which is huge and is all over the place, and it's lovely going into new worlds. Like the sense of Horizon Zero Dawn is a beautiful world, Death Stranding, beautiful world, but like, if you're doing the same thing in all of these games, it can get a bit tiring and stale. You're getting crafting materials, you're getting new gear, you're getting some customization options, you're basically finding the 101 pigeons that are dotted around in the city, or whatever it might be. And I'm sure Watch Dogs Legion has some element of that in there, but it also felt like from moment to moment I was doing things which I just can't do in any other game. Like, for instance, going into a situation where I am hacking between different cameras in an enemy base so that I can set traps around the facility by sort of overloading computers or distracting guards by drawing their attention away from my entrance to the building towards these things which I've rigged to explode. Like, it's this sort of stuff where it's like, oh right, okay, this isn't actually an open world game like I've played before. Also the whole thing of like, being able to recruit anyone you want to, break into any car that you want to. Like at one point I was hacking a cargo drone, bringing it down onto the road, climbing on top of it, and then I could use that to basically skip through an entire mission and just fly up to the top of a building where I was supposed to get to and then disembark, and I just cut loads of time out. And that's how the game should be played.
Okay, Jules, well thank you very much for your time.
Bye!
Bye everybody.